like true engaged tank. He played Gragas last week, but we haven't seen the Jarvan come out of him. We haven't seen the Kled. We haven't seen necessarily, the front line that we necessarily want in this kind of matchup. But right now, we do get right into it. Lee Sin banned away from Neo right away. And Unsold Stuff Gaming on right side, banning the Zac first is much more forgivable than what they were doing on the blue side. It's not okay to first ban a Zac at this level of play because it just gives your opponent so much information and you give the free ban over to the other team since you're banning it now. But Syndra taken away from Remind, Galio taken away from Saros, most likely. And we're probably going to see another ban directed at either Neo or Remind, two of the stars, especially in the early game of the team. I wouldn't be surprised if it was an Orianna ban, or potentially even an Elise ban, if there's something that Steel feels he's comfortable on outside of those top 3 champions. And it is actually the Thresh banned away from NT, and likely we'll see the Ivern banned away from Steel. Yeah, Ivern is actually a pretty solid ban right here. We haven't seen Steel play it, I don't believe. No, he played Sejuani and the Lee Sin last uh in their last set, but he is going to take it right here, take it away from Neo. That is something that he uniquely brought to Japan in spring, and we saw how effective this champion can be still even after the nerfs. And something that was very effective when played by Tussle. Neo is hovering on this early Evelyn once again, and I'm not sold that it's something that you can pick early in the draft. This Jarvan pick is a much safer pick. Even if it doesn't get an early lead in terms of the lane, you are able to play much more defensively and just go tank and be an engaging, a massive engage tool for the rest of your team. And that's exactly what he is going to be able to do. But right now, DFM is going to have to pick up a couple of things. Looks like they're going to pick up something like a support, a Tom Kench. And I wouldn't be surprised if we followed it up with something like a Kog'Maw, someone who can just do tons of damage while provided a ton of safety. But still, something like a Varus or an Ashe would also be great options. They both do plenty of damage at this point in the game, and it does solve the problem of not having any engage, which they were struggling with earlier. And after that, we do see Xayah being locked in for her ready. Not necessarily a strong counter, but definitely a strong champion in and of themselves. And with Tom Kench being a very uh, interesting early choice in the draft, having a lot of protection available for the ADC and potentially the mid laner as well. We are starting to see the bans coming out. Paz's Fiora being banned out reminds Orianna banned out. Not a surprise. Orianna's actually been a huge champion here in Japan, just like the rest of the world, but potentially even more so. We've seen it picked banned, I believe, nearly 100%. Brox picked it every time he could. It was banned. If it wasn't banned against Remind, he did pick it in their set against Rascal Jester last week. So it's really just no surprise it's going here again. The Heimerdinger ban actually banned out by USG. I don't really know what to make of that. We see an odd smile coming out from both DFM and USG's coach, so I wonder if that was kind of a panic, or maybe there's some strategies that DFM do have up their sleeve that they've been using in scrims or been seeing in solo queue. But I'd be a little bit surprised. Olaf is hovered here for Neo, and that's a interesting decision. Unfortunately, if you pair Olaf with Jarvan, you definitely get into the situation of I'm Jarvan, I'm helping, because Olaf can't get through the Cataclysm walls in any way other than the Blast Cone. And at that point, if you don't coordinate the Cataclysm particularly well, you don't have Olaf trapped in there with them to do everything that that character wants to do. We do see a couple of options being cycled through here. Is the Renekton locked in here for Paz? And so that's going to be a very aggressive and potentially brawly top lane between that Jarvan and that Renekton. Both of them doing plenty of damage to each other early game. And if and if Steel and Neo do choose to spend a lot more time up there, that could become a very snowbally game. Saros is hovering over this. LeBlanc does lock it in, and it's without the Cassiopeia available to him. Remind is having a little bit of a pinch champion pull. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw something like the Talia come out. Plenty of damage and options of potentially outplaying Saros, or other strong things that we could see are the Aria, but he is going to lock in that Fizz. Now, Fizz is something I've wanted to see in Japan for a little while now, simply because it has the ability to flex both into the mid lane and into the top lane. It definitely looks like it's going to be going over to Remind right now. But I've been wrong before. We have seen Jarvan in the mid lane just have massive base damages, massive damage on the Cataclysm. And we're a little bit slow on the trading right now. They still have about 10 seconds to go. There it is. That should be where we're going to finalize everything. And we're going to be getting into the game with the Fizz and LeBlanc, an incredibly volatile matchup. And Saros looks not super pleased with how things have been going. He's not been having a very strong season so far. He's suffered. He had a good game on Galio in round 1, but he did not perform on Jace. He did not perform particularly well on Ahri so far. Now this is going to be his 4th champion, his 4th champion to try out, and he's going to be going up against Remind's Fizz. And it doesn't necessarily matter who's playing if Fizz is going to have a little bit of a weak early game unless he can get some strong trades up against LeBlanc, but the range differential between those two champions should allow Saros to bully around Fizz for a little while. And right now we do see, again, a very strong composition coming out for both teams, and both teams do have the engage problem solved. Paz with a good flank will actually be able to get onto the back line. LeBlanc can find picks as well, and the Enchanted Crystal Arrow is always one of the best engagement tools brought out by any ADC. The only thing to even come close to rivaling it being the Chains of Corruption from Varus, and that's exactly why the two teams are, or the two ADCs are such popular picks. It's simply because they do provide that engage potential. But right now, we're going to be going directly into lane, and unsurprisingly, we do see Heredi and Indy hitting directly into the bot lane. You get some of those siege down, provide a little bit of early aggression. But we also saw how well Utapon and Vivid played around the plans in the last game. So if they're able to do the same this game, it's going to be a very good position for them moving forward. Remind is also down here. So this is one of the interesting things we see surrounding Zyra play is always, Zyra goes down to the bot lane, wants to get her seeds all around the bottom lane as quickly as possible, and some adaptions see the other team coming down, try and get an early kill onto the Zyra, but then further adaptions also sometimes see all of the team with Zyra on it just heading down, hoping for the other team to really have a strong attack. Right now, a 0.5 KDA coming out from Saros off of that last game, and compared to a 14.0 KDA coming out from Remind, and that's just the difference of how those two games started. Saros was not in a good spot, having to lane against, I believe it was a double buff mid laner once again, and Cassiopeia is a very scary laner already, even without the double buffs. But here we go, we're seeing some good damage, lots of damage being put down onto Heredi already. Rhyming. But Saros is starting to put some good damage down here onto Remind, just getting auto attacks in whenever he can, making... Oh, and that's an early E, and getting to see that is going to potentially give Saros a lot more pressure in this lane, simply because of how long that cooldown starts off. I believe it starts off at like a 15-second cooldown, as being your only really form of engage or escape. Neo jungling at very low health, but that's normal. That's what Olaf tends to do. And unlike in the game where we saw Tussle pushing around Wyvern simply because of the way that that clears. Olaf clears very quickly, but he also clears at very low health, as we're seeing here. He's gonna use a smite here, I'm sure, to get himself back into a good spot, but he just gets so much free attack speed, and here we get the life steal as well. And if skill had shown up, that would potentially be an early kill onto that Olaf, but really setting him far behind, especially just having the ghost. But he's able to clear very effectively, get that scuttle crab, hit that level 4, and be in a good health position moving into the early stages of ganking phases. But Saros here, not necessarily having as strong of an early game as you might have hoped early in the game. You do expect him to bully around Fizz, but the CS lead is not as large as one might have hoped. And Steel right now, getting spotted out by the Scuttle Crab, is not going to be able to have a successful gank against Heretti and Anti down here. He's going to clear out a little bit of vision, but that's going to be about all that they're able to do. Get that control word down, potentially back. Anti wants to get that destroyed as soon as possible, simply because he knows that it does present an opportunity for Steel to come back. But here we go, good fighting up here in the top lane. Paz and Opperman trading auto attacks and a couple of spells as well. And that's one of the things that makes Renekton so strong, is because he's not gated by mana cost at all. He's able to just continuously push on the opposing laner and sustain back up in the exact same way that he is putting down damage. We are seeing a bunch of movement around, and that was very interesting. I believe the colors had the selected over Steel. He does go in, take away the Raptor camp from Neo, and it is, you know, we're seeing a very interesting thing coming out already right now, as both the mid lane and the bot lane here for Detonation FocusMe are building up CS leads, and it's manifesting as about a 200 gold lead, which is always nice to have, but we're definitely going to be waiting to see exactly where First Blood will go over to, especially if it happens in the mid lane. If Saros or Remind can get ahead of their opponents, they're going to be in a great spot to really start snowballing the rest of the game. And I expect to see a lot of attention right now, as Steel and Neo are mostly mirroring each other. If they continue to do that around the mid lane, and in an early brawl, simply the mechanical play of those two fantastic mid laners could have a lot to do with how the rest of this game does end up playing out. Yutapon and Vivid not having as much success dealing with NT's plants here this game right now, and with Neo down here in the bottom lane, we could see a large fight in just a moment. Saros getting some good vision, getting a little bit more idea as to exactly where Neo is, but Neo is in a good spot to cut off Saros. He is forced distortion over the wall. And with Opperman moving down towards the mid lane, getting a little bit more vision in the river, it's going to be very dangerous for Saros to really play aggressive. The sun is starting to rise here in Seattle as we see the waters coming up from Mind not landing onto Saros, and with that cooldown no longer available, it is going to give a good opportunity for Saros to start pushing around. Paz teleporting back here to the top lane, picking up that Phage and the cloth armor. No potions here. He's going to start moving on. The Optimum doesn't quite get the animation cancel proper, but it was made much more difficult to do on the 7.10 patch, so it's not necessarily surprising that players are missing that. There we go. We are starting to see some good damage coming down from Saros onto Remind, even though he has narrowed this CS gap as you would expect to happen from a post-level 6 Fizz. But there's a lot of volatility in this game right now. Paz goes in, does not manage to get the stun down onto Jarvan. Instead, he's just going to flag and drag away. But Vivid is here in the mid lane, providing a lot of safety and potentially a lot of pressure onto your mind as he clears out these control wards. Ethereal Chain still managing to do a little bit of damage despite the fact that he's no longer rooted up simply because he's untargetable. But those chains do stay on, they will still do damage, but goes in, gets a little bit of damage, not a whole lot coming out there. Sarah's just using his ultimate to get a little bit of poke down with a hot shot coming across from Mutafone. They do have a good idea of exactly where Remind and Neo are on the map. Since Steel is in a nearby spot, it will go down to a different question of where exactly he wants to apply pressure right now. He's currently staying pretty much even. It's always difficult to have a good sense of the farm coming out from that champion simply due to the way that he CS's. Krugs don't work the same way. He misses out on, I believe it's 8 CS. Raw CS by that number every single time. Every single time he picks that up, but he's not necessarily falling behind otherwise. And Steel and Neo. Excuse me. Steel and Neo are matching each other for the most part right here, just down in the bottom half of the map. With the first dragon available, it is a cloud dragon. That is something that both Renekton, Jarvan, and Olaf will really enjoy. Not so the rest of the team to the same extent. Mind going in, getting some good damage onto Saros. And he is going to be building towards, it looks like a Hextech GLP Hextech Proto Belt. Able to get some good damage on and providing a lot of early aggression, but Paz is going in onto Oppim and not doing a whole lot of damage to each other right now. Simply willing to make a trade because he has built-in sustain, and LeBlanc does, and Jarvan does not. The clone coming up here, not going to be convincing enough. They still have a good idea of where he is, but here comes Steel. He has Daisy. Remind is forced to flash early, does get snared up, but here comes the Ethereal Chains tied down once more. One more auto attack should do it. The red buff is ticking down, but the corrupting potion is going to keep him safe and sound for now, but that's the flash down and potentially another great opportunity. Neo's coming in. He does have the Ragnarok available, but Remind is low. He's going to be charging forward, trying to get onto Steel. He does not have a red buff, but he does have axes. The shield is going to come out, but not going to be lasting long enough for Neo to really secure anything off of that. And right now, we're still sitting nearly dead even gold. This Paz is just trying to get pushed around a little bit more by Opperman in this game. Not necessarily showing the kind of proficiency on Renekton in this matchup that we might want to see. But it will be alright overall. He's still going to be a fearsome croc as we start to get more attention towards this bottom half of the map one more time. Nothing particularly exciting coming out in terms of builds. Saros is going to be building towards the Hextech Gunblade. The Hextech Protobelt coming up for Remind a little bit further along by opting to go for the Kindle Gem as opposed to the Sorcerer's Shoes that Saros is opting to pick up really early in this lane. One of the interesting things that we often see in the bot lane is the difference between a BF Sword and a Bilgewater Cutlass, and right now we are seeing that. They built up the Ash Paz, goes aggressive onto Opperman one more time, but not a whole lot coming out of that, just trying to push him out of lane, force all the mana, honestly attacking the mana a little bit more than the health of Opperman. But the Bilgewater Cutlass versus the BF Sword, in terms of power, the BF Sword very clearly does more damage, and there's really no way to argue that, but if you aren't able to get significantly favorable trades, you do end up with situations where the Bilgewater Cutlass will just out-sustain the BF Sword and trades won't be meaningful, and so we'll often see a lot of ADCs try and start to target the support a little bit more. We'll have to blow through potions, blow through other resources other than just their lifesteal. Chum the Water misses again. That's the third one that he's thrown out that has not yet connected. Very fast Ivern here, and that's what happens when you build those mobility boots early, as I'm sure he has. Gold looking pretty much even across the map. Small advantages in both the mid lane, in the top lane for DFM. A small disadvantage in the bot lane as well. Saros is starting to, is doing a good job of pushing around to remind. As long as he doesn't have that Chum the Waters available, his threat level is much lower, and he knows it. Still moving around, likely gonna find Tussle here. They keep mirroring each other. Oops, misses the first undertone, not gonna be able to do anything further with that. Just going to move towards the Scuttle Crab and get a little more vision control down here around the Cloud Drake. We saw that neither team prioritized it super heavily in the previous game. It'll be interesting to see exactly how it is they move around in this game. But Sarah's going to pick up that blue buff, the second blue buff offered up by Ivern. Neo going to have to give his up, hand it over to Remind as he hops over the wall. Hops right back over. But ADC is finishing up a couple of items. The Blade of the Rune King and the Essence Reaver coming out for both of them right here. And it is in a quick spot until Heretti picks up that the Zeal. Most of his damage is going to be coming out from a couple of about 2 auto attacks and a Blade Caller. Just getting a ton of damage down, all in quick burst. You tend to see, especially with the Essence Reaver build on Xayah, a lot of focus towards... Remind, not doing a whole lot. Misses the Chum the Water once again. That one actually landing on a clone. The blue buff will be open very, very soon. But it just takes one. It just takes one fish to really turn this lane into a very, very dominated lane. If Fizz can get a lead right now as he teleports back. Uh-oh. Getting good damage. He is going to have to land the epidural change. Does not land it. And because of that, and with Opperman right on the other side, DFM is going to back out a little bit one more time. And we're going to sit with the only goal difference coming out right here, pretty much in this mid lane. It's a CS difference, as Saros is able to bully around Remind a lot more powerfully than he was, or at all, in the first game these guys played this split. Paz and Opperman not really doing a whole lot of damage to each other. We're going to see Paz use the Cold and Meek in just a moment, heal a lot of the damage that they were doing, but here comes Steel with Daisy. Doesn't quite land the Q yet, waits, does get the flash out of Opperman, meaning that we are likely going to see this turret going down, or taking a lot of damage as Remind and Neo are starting to come up. The bushes are being put down, and there goes Opperman. He does have the Cataclysm, but isn't choosing to use it. The Chum the Waters does land the steal, and there's the Cataclysm. Lots of damage going down onto Ivern. He is going to be first blood. Paz and Saras are going to have to run as they don't have anything left. Here comes Neo, still trying to get a little bit on. He does blow the Ghost as well. But a little bit of overextension there by Detonation FocusMe is going to put a lot of gold into the pocket of Remind's Fizz, and that's not the target, not the champion or the player that you want to see that kind of advantage starting to be built up upon. Rift Herald is going to be taken pretty smoothly here by Neo and Opperman. There's no steal to steal away the Rift Herald, and that is a large win more button for this team as they start to move around. Depending on where it is that they put it, that could give them a lot of advantages. It's not just the first blood, but also the first turret, and even the first Cloud Dragon of the game. Steel's getting found out by Neo right here, taking a lot of damage. He doesn't have his flash available. He is going to have to use the redemption, but here comes Saros. Neo is going to be Ragnarok. He doesn't have a flash available, and it is going to be traded right back. The Steel's in a little bit of an awkward spot. Opperman could find him very easily, but they don't quite see him. He does go on to Saros, does not quite manage to hit the knockup. He does have Cataclysm in just a moment. The ethereal change coming out. It's not going to be a whole lot, but Steel and Paz are here. Daisy Stampede is going to be coming around. Paz jumps over the wall. He does not have his flash available. Daisy is going to try and get the knockup. Does land it onto Opperman, but it's not going to be enough. There's no Chum the Waters. There's no ultimates really available right now for Detonation Focus Me. Saros is going quite aggressive right now. Good, very good damage, actually, onto Remind right there. Gonna give him plenty of CS right here. Really trying to make up for the deficit in the first Blood Gold. That did go over. And Paz is going to secure that first turret for himself with a solo goal, getting another kill worth of gold just onto himself, as well as plenty of gold for the rest of the team. And that's where the 2,000 gold lead coming in right now for Detonation Focus Me. Opperman opting to very early finish the Titanic Hydra in this lane, getting that extra sustain, that extra health, just to fight up against Paz in these long fights. And right now, Paz is in a very good spot, but to potentially start snowballing. Enchanted Crystal Arrow misses, but does force the flash out of NT. And that's going to paint a large target on the head of Unsold Stuff Gaming's bot lane. When one of the members there doesn't have the flash, especially Zyra, who is still fairly squishy at this point in the game, without an escape, it should bring members of Detonation Focus Me down. Potentially a 4-man dive to really bring home the small advantage they've built up for themselves right now. And we do see the full Zeal item, the Ruinous Hurricane, being built up by Utapon, opting for that instead of the Static Shiv as we saw earlier in the day by Utori. Again, going for the very popular, ever-present Ruinous Hurricane that's been the mainstay of the competitive scene for quite a while now, actually. Ryan has finished that Proto Belt, is working towards the Lich Bane. Hextech Gunblade, on the other hand, finished for Saros, as reminded Neo, are starting to head up. Paz does not have his flash available, so he's going to have a little bit of a alligator sense to really know that they're coming here. Optiman's likely going to flag and drag in a moment. It still stands right outside the vision here. But it's going to be okay. The clone is heading up here. Does it trick Opperman? No, it does not. Not at all. And we've seen a couple players really able to use that second part of LeBlanc's ultimate quite well. Saros, unfortunately, has not had any success with it this game. But the Rift Herald is going to be spawning here in the mid lane, going to be taking a lot of damage onto the mid lane. Got a trap being set here a little bit by Neo, knowing that they're going to be coming around to try and stop the Rift Herald. They don't wander close enough, though, and right now Saros and Steel should be able to clear this before it hits the turret. And indeed they do. It's taken down pretty low, and it is finally killed here by Saros. Ultimately, the Rift Herald just needed to be used before it ran out on the timer there. And Daisy Stampede going in, it's their own Rift Herald. Who needs to get the objective when you have Ivern on the team? Chum the Water comes out, again missing, not landing onto anybody, and the Hextech Proto Belt being used simply for wave clear. Paz and Oppenheimer are going to find each other once again. Paz does get the stun down, some good damage. The full Black Cleaver stacks all down, taking a lot of damage off of this Jarvan. And he's just going for these long fights, but here's your mind. He doesn't have the Chum the Waters, he doesn't have the Hextech Proto Belt, and Paz should be fine to just walk out of this right now. Steals around and should be able to help. Saros is going to be pushing down onto this mid lane, getting some good damage onto it. Steel is here as well. They should be able to take this very quickly, unless Neo is able to wave clear, hit that undertow. But nope, that is going to be another turret going down in favor of Detonation Focus Me. Paz is around the backside, not necessarily the most effective thing. for them right now. But Saros is going to be cleaning out a couple of wards and forcing Heredian Anti to really back away from that tower and potentially get the next objective for that team. Forced to use that Here Comes the Righteous Glory is going to slow him down. He is going to have to flash out in a very odd direction. Just second Distortion is going to come out, and he doesn't have a whole lot, but the Devour is coming out from Vivid. He does get Saros out of there. Safe and sound. He's going to be able to go back and be all Gucci. Teleport was blown there by Optimum without actually getting anything for it, which is going to give a good advantage here to Paz if they do choose to start going for this Cloud Dragon or really just a large turret dive here in the next couple of minutes. NT's flash is just coming up once again. And the 2,000 gold lead sitting on here for a Detonation FocusMe. They do have a couple of item breakpoints coming in a little bit earlier. But there's Paz and Steel finding Optimum right here, getting a little bit of damage onto him. He's just going to flag and drag out over the wall. He'll be alright, but Neo not necessarily in the same spot. Again, the clones coming out from Saros are cute, but they're not particularly effective. Right now, we do see a decent lead coming out for Utapon in terms of itemization. He is about half an item ahead of Heredi right now, hitting that earlier power spike with the Blade of the Ruined King. And even though it does look like he has a CS lead, be aware that is likely very deceptive due to all of the plants that are put down by Zyra still counting as CS on 7.10. They stopped counting towards CS on 7.11. Who will stop being bamboozled by Riot's plans, but the double chain's missing there for Saros, the single chain missing as well, getting some damage done anyway. Chum of Waters is put down onto Steel. Here comes the Righteous Glory once again from Neo. He's going in very fast, not even having to use the Ragnarok yet, but he is using it right now. Steel is in a very bad spot. He does have his flash available, does use the Lock of the Iron Solari, but here comes Vivid, and they do get the kill back onto Olaf. Remind is very low, but he's going to be able to use that Playful Trickster and manage to get out. And he is here as well, as the ADCs are moving around in the bot lane jungle. Utapon's going to be able to hit the bot lane turret once again as the pings go towards it. Paz, using the aggression that he's built up, is starting to build up another CS lead for himself and gets a second top lane turret. Right now, that's making up the bulk of the gold lead that Detonation FocusMe have, is just getting these neutral objectives, and they're providing so much more threat with the Ashe, with the Ivern, with the Renekton. Oh, flashes in, does get the stun down. Remind is not long for this world. Chum the Waters does land onto Paz, and here comes Vivid and Utapon, gonna take another turret. Very interesting rotation using the Abyssal Voyage to really just bring members of the team wherever you want, and they're likely going to be able to get good damage here on the bot lane or the Cloud Drake if they choose to do that as well. Both of them are strong options. Anti in a very awkward spot does get stunned up. There comes the Enchanted Crystal Arrow as well, but Paz is not going to be able to do a whole lot. Never mind, he turns around, instantly bursts out that Zyra, and there goes another member. Heredi's not got a whole lot left to do. He is getting slowed down by the passive from Ashe. Optimum is trying to get out. Vivid tries to get a little bit more, but with the ethereal change, there's another stun coming out from Paz, and they're just going to get a full A's. They keep finding members of Unsold Stuff Gaming, and that's going to be another turret, and they're going to start moving towards the inhibitor turret. It's only 27 minutes into the game, and with the Daisy leading the charge, they are going to be able to take this very quickly. Remind is the only one available to defend. They're going to get a 27-minute inhibitor. NT is now alive. Neo is going to be spawning in just a moment, but there's nothing that Unsold Stuff Gaming can do to defend that inhibitor turret. There's still not a dragon. Neither team putting any emphasis on this Cloud Drake at all, either last game or in this game. And right now, Detonation FocusMe is in a fantastic position. 10,000 gold lead. Massive item spikes coming through. Second item, the Banshee's Veil being built up. by Saros. We have the Infinity Edge just being completed. Locket, a second Locket being built up by Vivid's Tom Kench. They're in a very good spot. Steel, looks like he's going to be found right here by Remind, getting some good damage down, but the Blast Cone is going to send him into a position where he's going to be totally K as Vivid comes around with the Devour. Saros is finding some good damage onto Neo, not going to land the second set of chains. And he is going to be able to Ragnarok his way out. The Righteous Glory not doing a whole lot. The Enchanted Crystal Arrow, the Reddit downvote, not going to be enough as it goes wide right on Heredia and Neo. But that's going to be alright. That's not a particularly long cooldown, especially with the crit chance and cooldown reduction that the Essence Reaver is providing. They're going to be able to sweep out good vision here on the Baron and potentially get in a very good spot. Paz is pushing in with super minions there in the bot wave. Optiman does have his teleport as well, but it's going to be difficult for him to compete with his 3-0-3 3-item Renekton right now. Full Colossus, Gargoyle Stone Plate, and a BF Sword up in that top lane right now. They do give the ADC another red buff, and they're going to be ready to pounce on anything as soon as they do it. Neo does not have the Ragnarok, not going to be in a position to really advance on Utapon, and here comes Daisy, and Steel Paz is coming around. Ragnarok should be coming up in just a moment, but it's not going to be coming up nearly in time. Saros is finding his way onto end. He finds a second member, and with the jungler and the support dead, that's going to be DFM turning directly towards the Baron. There's still some decent tools available for Unsold Stuff Gaming to try and contest this, but it doesn't look like they're going to be in a position to do so at all. Remind's going to be the only one anywhere near enough to do anything about it, and with all the ward coverage, Saros is going to try and find him. The chunk of water does land onto him. He's in a potentially bad spot. Remind is getting some good damage. He just needs one more. He is not going to be able to find him. The Locket really coming out clutch right there. And there he goes. He jumps over the wall, does use that Zonia's, but he misses the flash. But the Playful Trickster is going to be enough. One more auto attack over the wall is all Utopon's going to need. 303, 404, 304. The only person who's died on this team has been Steel so far, and that very unfortunate first blood, but that's all USG has to show for themselves right now. They only have the one kill, no turrets, no dragons. They did pick up the Rift Herald, but Paz is here. You're going to start knocking on the doors of the middle door. They've already knocked down the bot lane door. He's just going to be able to really start pushing in right here as well. He surely has enough gold now to go home, buy that Guardian's Angel, and really be an incredibly threatening Crocodile to the backline of Heredia and Enti there. Meanwhile, on the other hand, all the shields available coming out from Vivid, coming out from Steel, should be able to keep Utapon alive for much longer than he would otherwise have a right to live. And it's going to be in a very dangerous spot. The Baron buff is coming in, getting some good damage. Utapon is going to use his own Baron buff to bring his cannon minion to the mid lane as quickly as possible, and that's exactly what we're seeing. He does have plenty of ability to take this down, and there it is. That's the second inhibitor turret going down at the 31-minute mark. They're moving on to the inhibitor itself. Paz is on the side. Daisy going in. They get a lot of damage onto Optimum. He's not able to flag and drag out. He is going to barely survive for now. Paz keeps wanting to go, but Remind and Neo on the backside aren't able to do anything. They finally do find Olaf. He's going to be the next one to fall. Goes down to Paz as well. And with 5 members still in the base, Steel is still looking for Remind. If he can keep him away, that's going to be more than enough. They do pick up the second inhibitor, and they're going to try and find their way onto Optimum and the Nexus turrets. They have plenty of minions. They still have the Baron buffs, and that's going to be the first Nexus turret falling pretty easily. And Remind and Steel both recognize that the game is over. They're having a dance party over in the top lane. Kaz is not quite satisfied with that, trying to look for a little bit more. Kaz's TP canceled, but that is going to be 1-1 as Detonation FocusMe tie up the series. We're going to go to Game 3, and Detonation FocusMe figured out what they did wrong. They solved their compositional issues, and then their strong lanes and individual play was able to bring them through that game. As reminds Fizz, while it did get the only kill in the game with the Chum the Waters, was unfortunately not able to bully through Zeros' LeBlanc and Paz's Renekton. And ultimately, the two games we saw were basically, they were pretty one-sided, both of them. Largely due to an early lead being built up by one team. With very little focus on the Dragons, but they are able to pick up early turrets, pick up a couple of early kills, and really just push that through. But for now, that was Game 2, Detonation FocusMe versus Unsold Stuff Gaming. Detonation FocusMe tie up the series 1-1. This is Joshua Joshi Howard. We'll be right back in a couple of minutes.